first off, congratulations because, you're 7 seasons in, which I think it's such a big thing, over 100 episodes. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Um,
you.
how do you feel like you evolved as a person by being a part of this legacy?
Oh, girl, we're going to turn this into a therapy session. Uh, you know what? Honestly, I think the biggest evolution for me was finding my voice as a producer in terms of being able to stand up for what I want and what I don't want. Do you know what I mean? Because, a lot of the time when we first start out writing, we're so grateful just to have a seat at the table that
Yeah.
we don't want to rock the boat, right? And both Jamie and I came up sort of the long route. We came up, as baby writers and going back and forth in levels and everything and like worked our way up to showrunner. And so when you do that, and you're working on other people's shows, there's a lot of, your job is to cater to their voice. Your job is to execute that showrunner's vision. And All American was the first show I ever show ran. And so there was a little bit of, we can't afford to fail. And there's no time to second guess anything. So, which was great because it taught me to trust my gut. But
Hmm.
at the same time, sort of over the course of the 7 seasons, really finding my voice in terms of these are the stories I want to tell. That is not the story I want to tell. This is how I want these characters portrayed. Raising two Black boys in this country. Jamie's got an amazing daughter. Like these are the how we want to see us represented so that our kids feel like they have a legacy. Being able to really hone that. And in a way, we've always been able to do that, but now it's less talking around it and we're able to get just more to the point. And there's a little bit of sort of respect for our vision
Mm,
because it's been going for so long. And
yeah.
it really resonated with the community. So whereas before we'd sort of have to put on the full show for why this is what we need to do, now they're just like, what do you want to do? We got you. We have your back. And so I think for me, that's sort of been my biggest growth as a writer and as a showrunner.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I mean, everything. I echo everything that NK is saying, and I also feel like a lot of it for me was understanding leadership, but also this job teaches you to make decisions and
Mm,
to and to stay to remain committed to your decisions. So learning how to be decisive, learning how to lead, learning how to be on set where we had to make adjustments last minute. Like, the one us being able to be a part of this show for 7 years, and a lot of this I attribute to everything that I've learned from NK. But the other thing that I learned was because we went through the pandemic, because we went through strikes, because we went through so much that like the power of pivot, like nothing phases us anymore. It's like no matter what you throw at us, we've had actors with COVID. You know what I mean? We've had this. We've had to find a way to kind of make adjustments. We had to look at the schedule and say, you know what? We don't have this person for the next 3 episodes. How do we make these adjustments? How do we pivot? What are the things that we need to do to ensure that our crew is still working every day? So, you know, so much of what I learned beyond just the writing, because I agree with everything NK is saying, it's also the boots on the ground training, which to be quite honest with you, like in this day and age, people don't unfortunately have this kind of access. So we're also blessed, you know what I mean, to be able to break an episode, to then write the episode, and then to be able to be on set to produce the episode, and then to go through the process of post production to help edit the episode, and then see that baby like grow all the way into like its most fullest form. And so that has been the ultimate blessing for me. And I mean, and I'm excited to continue, to learn and evolve in that respect.
Speaking of evolution, you guys, the show itself evolved a lot, but now you're taking it sort of back to the beginning in a sense where now you're focusing back on them being in high school, but high school, a whole, new batch of cast in high school and stuff. How are you able to continue the legacy, but also reintroducing new faces or introducing new faces and storylines?
Well, the heart of the show has always been, sort of a lens on our youth, predominantly our Black youth in this country, and what it looks like when you have this seemingly impossible dream, right? It's people who want to be NFL greats. It's people who want to be lawyers who are coming out of, essentially the hood. It's music producers. It's all these dreams that aren't necessarily the practical careers we're raised to want. It's no different for Jamie and I, Jamie coming from Oakland, myself coming from Nigeria and being like, we want to be TV writers. And our parents like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? And so the heart of the show has always been that, seeing our youth sort of thrive through young adulthood as they pursue the seemingly impossible dream. And it's a show that gives our community and our teens permission to dream big. And how do you overcome the obstacles and how do you grow and maintain your identity while you pursue that thing? And that hasn't changed. It is a new generation for a new generation, while still maintaining the same heart of our show and in a really beautiful way, also getting to reap the benefits of our former teens who are now the adults on the show, admittedly, somewhat reluctantly trying to figure out adulthood because they're fresh out of college, and they still want to be twerking at the club, but it's like, but you got to go to work in the morning too. Getting to explore that side on the other side of young adulthood. To us, that was sort of the perfect blend of keeping a show like this going for the next generation while still honoring our diehard fans who've been around since day one and honoring the characters on the show as they continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah, it's speaking of diehard fans, because I will say All American has like diehard
Yep.
fans.
Yep.
It's intense. Now, but with that being said, there's also a lot of fans that aren't really okay with the evolution of it. And so how do you hope that they approach this show? Because it's all about growth. But I think, when you fall in love with a storyline, you fall in love with a character, you get stuck on that. So how do you feel about like your fan base and just letting them know like the quality's there, the legacy's there, we're just pivoting.
Exactly what you said.
Yep.
Exactly what you said. Because it would be, I would understand. Look, I am one of those diehard, you know, not to age myself, but if social media had been around while I was obsessed with all my YA shows, you know what? I'd probably be up there making the fan reels and yelling at the writers and all the things because I'm a passionate TV watcher. I love television. I am the ultimate fan. And so we get it. And actually, we appreciate how much they love some of our legacy characters, how much they love Spilivia. We loved Spilivia. That's why that wedding was so important to us at the end of last season. But they achieved the story. Their journey
Mm-hmm.
is done.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer made it to the NFL. Him and Olivia are married. She's a famous book author, and it's now time for a new generation. We could have ended the show there, and had discussed possibly ending the show there. And then we were reminded that there's a whole nother generation. It seems like fifth, sixth grade seems to be around when our fans find us for the first time. I'm always, people are always coming up to be like, oh my gosh, my fifth grader just started watching All American. And that seems to be the age where, I would have thought it was older, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
cool, yes, bring on the fifth graders. We're teaching life lessons. And so for that new generation that's coming up, they need their love triangles to fight over. They need to see themselves represented on the screen and encouraged to pursue their dreams. And, part of the reason my gut was telling me to keep going because Jamie and I talked about this all the time. We had so many stories we still wanted to tell. But it was truly after a run-in I had with a barista, when I was writing the 100th episode. And very rarely do I get recognized by name. Like actors get recognized, but not showrunner. It's like, half people don't even know what we are. And she saw my name on my coffee cup when she went to put it down and chased me out of the Starbucks to ask me if I was the showrunner of All American. And then burst into tears. And I was like, oh God, what did I do? Like, I'm sorry I broke them up. Like, I'm like, what happened? And then she told me that no, it was that she had actually dropped out of college, and was kind of struggling to feel like pursuing her dreams was worth anything. And the show was what gave her back her sort of dream and made her realize, like, yes, what she wants to do with her life is worth it. And as a young Black woman, she's worthy of having the future she wants. And she went back to college. And it was because of the show. And then she said, after we're done, like ugly crying, because that set me off, she said, I hope there's a show like this around for my younger brother when he's old enough. And that sat with me. And that was when I was like, you know what? If we can figure out how to do it and we find the right characters and then the right actors to bring them to life, we owe it to that next generation
Big
for
time.
them to also have their version of All American and them to have their heroes that they look up to that motivate them to keep going. And so, you know, that was what we decided we were going to attempt to do. Weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it happen. And then, you know, someone like Nate McIntyre walks into an audition room. Someone like O.C. Akile walks into an audition room. You know, Alexis Chikazi, Antonio Bell, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, these characters came to life, and the vision was so clear, and we got so excited. And so we're hoping that that love and that excitement comes across the screen to both our new fans and the old ones. And Jamie, I just talked for like 18 minutes, so just
No, you're
be quiet.
good. No, you're good. You're 1000% correct, man. I mean, there's, you know, NK mentioned how the target age is like 11, 12 years old. My daughter is about to be 11. And so, and I was just telling them in the room that, you know, we're starting to have those discussions about her starting to watch the show. And so she's starting to ask me questions. She's now on set. It's this thing about aspiration and hope. Like, that's a real thing. And I think that, like, and being able, I mean, for good or for bad, when we grew up, it was the Cosby Show. You know what I mean? And so now when I'm looking at stuff now, like what these kids are able to kind of hold on to is our show, because the representation is there. And we go above and beyond to try to make it also feel as authentic as we possibly can, while also still trying to give it as much hope as we possibly can. And the crazy thing is, like, this is the kind of show, and the beauty of YA shows and the beauty of high school shows in general is 20 years from now, I could be watching this show, you know what I'm saying, with like my kids' you know what I mean? It won't go away. You know what I mean? You can always go back 25, 30 years and you're like, you know, this was the show for that time, and this is kind of what it represented. And I promise you that the messages that we're able to convey right now will still resonate 25, 30 years from now.
No, agreed, agreed. And it's cool if it's gonna keep going next
Yeah,
23.
let's go. I mean, let's go.
Great show.
Listen, we'll have our son. She'll have her son, and I have my daughter. They'll be the co-showrunners.
And they'll be the co-showrunners by then. Jamie and I will
Yeah,
be retired.
2025, we're done.
I love it. Thank you guys so much.
Of course.
Thank you. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking